Nate, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Jason, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
We appreciate you being here. You've had a successful run in Christian ministry, successful run in the honey business. Why in the world do you want to get into politics now?
Well, it was never in the cards. I mean, honestly. I was the Nate CEO until November of this past year, and I was just really considering, all right, I spent 12 years in full-time Christian ministry, 12 years doing the honey company. Now it's just wondering what I should do next. I was actually with a friend of mine, Rick Santorum, up in D.C. during the National Prayer Breakfast, and we were at lunch, and I was just sharing this thought with him. Right. And Rick just kind of out of the blue said, well, you cleaned up the honey industry by testing all the honey that you purchased and making sure that the food was safe. You should go do the same thing for other agriculture in Texas. Go run for the ag commissioner. I was like, what? So came back and talked to my wife about it, and we actually went and looked at what the job description was of the Texas Ag Commissioner, and it's incredibly impactful of what you could do. I mean, like feeding 5.5 million kids in the school lunch programs is just one of the many things that you could do. So that was just kind of the genesis of realizing that maybe this could be the next phase of life that God's got for us.
Well, if elected, Nate, what are your top two priorities? Because it's a wide job.
Yeah, there's two things that I think where we have this intersection of what's going on across the country, actually. And Donald Trump's the one who's brought us to this head of realizing that the food that we eat impacts our health. But at the same time, we have, farmers and ranchers are going out of business. We lost 7% of all farmers in America last year. We've lost, since 2018, we've lost 17,000 farmers in Texas. And these are the small farms, the farms that produce local, beef and eggs and product and sell them into small communities in rural Texas that's dying, as we all know. And so not only do we need to help farmers and ranchers be successful, in 1980, a farmer made 40 cents of every $1 of food. Today, it's 15 cents.
Wow. So
45 years later, they make 60% less than they made 45 years ago.
So boil that down. Considering all that and what you've seen since you decided to run, your top two priorities are what?
We're going to make Texans healthy, and we want to help farmers not just survive but thrive.
An endorsement from President Trump go a long way in this race?
It would go a long way.
Have you asked the White House?
We've had conversations, and so we'll see. I've been a personal donor of President Trump going all the way back to 2016, and for us, I've given him more money than any other politician we've ever given. So I think President Trump, as a business guy, is incredibly brilliant in the way that he is leading the United States. Is how we need leadership in Texas.
But is he going to give you an endorsement, do you think?
President Trump, I'd love your endorsement.
All right. Let's zoom out a little bit here for people who are watching this. And I want to ask you this. Why should voters throw out Sid Miller and put you in there?
I've been one of Sid Miller's largest donors over the years. When I decided to run, I felt like, in the Bible it says, give honor to whom honor's due. And so I felt like I owed it to Sid, and I called him up and took him to lunch and asked him what his intentions were into the future. He was considering running for another office, and so I said, I'd like to run for Ag Commissioner. And after we talked for a little while, he said, I think you should run. Now, he would tell you if he was sitting here, but I meant if I wasn't going to run. But, I didn't start this off as being an anti-Sid guy. It's really pro-farmer, pro-family health. But as I've gotten into it, there's been far too many distractions that have been happening in agriculture that really tears down the things that we need to go accomplish. He's had a lot of ethics issues. Even his own campaign manager pled guilty to a felony for commercial bribery, selling hemp licenses for $25,000 when you could get them for $100. Pled guilty, but today he's the chief of staff at the Texas Department of Agriculture, being paid over $200,000 a year. And this is a guy who, now is helping to lead the very industry that he was defrauding. We don't need those kind of things in the Texas Department of Agriculture. We've had over 130 people leave since March. Either he's fired them or they've left. So the organization is just a shell of what it once was, and the opportunity has just diminished under their leadership.
Your latest fundraising filing shows, I believe, $13,000 in donations. Where's the money going to come from for this? Did I read it wrong?
Yeah, that was that special election. It was like 30 days.
Okay,
And so
it was a short filing. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw, but it's the only
so
one
the
that's
first,
in there for you.
first filing that we filed was back June 30th, and we had $410,000.
Okay.
And so we've raised more than both candidates combined spent last time in the primary for the last election cycle when Sid had a competitor.
What's this election going to cost, do you think?
You know, we're raising a lot of money. I mean, we're shooting for $5 million, and I think Sid's typically spent, around $400,000. Hadn't been able to raise very much money, but we're going to work like we're not going to raise any money, and we're going to raise money like we're not going to do any work. And we're north, south, east, and west, and everywhere in between, every day, all over the state, talking and sharing the vision of what we want to accomplish.
Texas farmers have record yields this year for cotton, for sorghum, for corn as well too. Their biggest customer, as you know, is China, and it's not buying right now in this ongoing trade dispute with President Trump. There's still a case before the Supreme Court about whether Trump can enact these tariffs unilaterally against that country. But was this trade war a mistake when it's affecting the bottom lines of Texas farmers?
I think President Trump always has America first in sight, and he really is going to do what he thinks is the best for America. And that doesn't always mean like what's going to be best tomorrow. I mean, he's got the long-term vision, and he's also, as you know, he's like a three-dimensional chess player. And so, I think the trade war probably has some shortcomings, which are painful for a lot of people. But at the same time, I just read yesterday that we've taken in $30 billion a month in tariffs, higher than we ever have. And so he's looking at coming in alongside agriculture, as we've seen, to try to help bring some level of relief to help farmers in this transitionary period. So we're feeling that, whether it's, he's talking about Argentina right now and possibly bringing in beef, and that's more to try to bring relief to consumers. But the long-term solution is, and he knows this, and this is what he wants to do, is to help bring back the herd, from the lows of what we haven't seen since 1951. So whether it's with cattle or the new screwworm, he's solution oriented. He's going to help fix it.
I'll ask you about the beef in a moment, but I'm curious what farmers are telling. What are farmers telling you about the trade war? Everything I've heard from farmers over the years is, listen, we'd rather sell our products than get a handout from Congress. What are farmers telling you when you're campaigning around the state?
There is some pain that they're feeling, but this isn't just because of the tariffs. I mean, this has been a financial systemic issue that they've had for a long time. I met with the Wheat Growers Association up in Amarillo a couple months ago, and she said, wheat farmers are upside down before they even get wheat into the ground. And that's not just from the tariffs. I mean, I could buy honey in Mexico, but I couldn't sell honey in Mexico. I could buy honey from Europe, but I couldn't sell honey in Europe because they have trade policies that protect their producers. Our producers have been being shortchanged globally, internationally through trade practices by other countries to help keep competitors out. And so all that President Trump is doing, he's leveling this playing field to be able to make it more fair for all farmers in the United States.
You mentioned Argentina. I want to ask you about that now here. President Trump wants to buy beef from Argentina. Sid Miller says if you do that, you're going to hurt Texas farmers. He says, import more breed stock. Let's increase our cattle herds across the state. Which one's the right answer?
I don't think importing breed stock is the right solution. I think that we need to help get farmers and ranchers. I've got a cow-calf operation. We need to hold back the cows and the heifers and continue to grow the herd, grow the population, which, it's hard right now when you have beef prices at an all-time high. You think, well, let's just go sell those cows and, time value of money, we'll buy them back, next spring. But we really just need to find a way that we can convince farmers, ranchers to hold back the cattle, go ahead and breed them. And I think the desire for President Trump to bring in Argentina isn't just about consumers in America. I think this is, again, going back to the multi-dimension chess. He's dealing with China, and China's coming in and wanting to create relationships with Brazil, Argentina, and subvert America from a long-term perspective. And so I think this is as much of Donald Trump also wanting to help cash-strapped Argentine or South American countries, get out of very difficult places that they're in today. And so it's a global game that we're having to play.
What are farmers telling you about these record high beef prices? Because we've talked about those in a recent episode of our Y'all-itics Political podcast.
Depends on whether you're a cow-calf guy or whether you're a feeder. The feeding guys are dying because the border's closed because of screwworm. And so we don't have enough throughput, into meat processing plants, and so they're losing money. If you're a cow-calf, you're selling a pair for $5,000, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's finally my time.
Yeah.
But it makes everybody very nervous because it's not sustainable.
Sure.
And so it's, I think everybody would like to see it come down quite a bit, to relatively safe places to where everybody just felt good about it.
For clarity though, where do you fall on whether we buy beef from Argentina or whether we just bring in import breed stock, whether we import breed stock in instead?
Yeah, I think part of the desire to bring in breed stock is to utilize our own processing.
Right.
And if we're bringing in boxed beef from Argentina, it's already been processed. One, what are the different health safety standards that they apply into any foreign country that we purchase food from, but specifically that, not knowing, but. That is a short-term solution. It's like trying to bring down gas prices by tapping by the gas reserves. So bringing that beef in is going to help with short-term prices with consumers, but it's not a long-term solution. So I think it can be a both and really focus. I don't think we need to bring breed stock in. I think we really need to continue to build up our own herd. We have the cattle. We've got 94 million cattle. We just need to get back, to the herd levels that we need.
But how do you do that if you don't bring in breed stock? I mean, how do you get there?
Well, we have to get ranchers to not send their cows off to be slaughtered.
So early?
Because, instead you hold them back and you breed them and have calves.
Okay. One of the things that you've been campaigning on, like every Republican, is a strong border. And deportations of migrant farm workers, as you probably well know, are really starting to be felt across the country right now. U.S. agriculture workforce fell by 155,000 so far this year. Texas has always relied heavily on these seasonal workers that come across the border that help, pick the cotton or work in any of the fields down there in South Texas and across the state. But what do you tell these farmers now who are now stuck with these higher labor costs, in addition to not having customers to sell to like China?
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult we utilize the H-2A program. Which allows you to have access to foreign workers. They can come in for 10 months, they have to go back for 2 months,
Sure.
But you have to provide housing for them, and there are a lot of costs associated with just what you're having to pay them. And so the difficulty is that if you're a citrus grower in South Texas, that you wind up paying someone $40 an hour to pull oranges, off of a tree. You go 15, 20 miles south of the border, and they're paying someone $2 a day. And so the impact of that is really negative because we're offshoring more of our food, and we're having small producers go out, and we're consolidating up into a small handful of very large producers. And so, the work challenge, the worker challenge here in America is something that we've really got to address. We've really got to figure it out, and because we've got to have people be able to help in agriculture. It's becoming more labor intensive as we go.
Indeed, but doesn't Texas and the country need these seasonal workers to come in and help
there is
the agriculture industry?
Yeah, there's no limitations on the number of H-2A workers that you can bring in. I mean,
but a lot of these seasonal workers, as you know, many are H-2A, many just come across and stay for a while without having the proper documentation. But they help.
They're not now.
they did, you're right. But they help Texas farmers meet the bottom line.
They do, and it's something that we really do have to figure out. But Secretary Rollins has said that there's not going to be any cap on the number of H-2A workers that we can make available, to agriculture to bring in. So I think the Trump administration is trying to find some very practical application of regulations that allow farmers access to that labor. Yeah. Now, is it financially beneficial as what it has been in the past? No, which ultimately winds up passing on the consumer, and we do have higher prices,
sure.
Right? And which what we're experiencing today. So, agriculture is one of these multifaceted things that you pull one lever and then you have 3 reactions, and then you've got to figure out, okay, do I pull that lever halfway or all the way down? And so there's no silver bullet.
What are people asking you as you campaign across the state right now? What do farmers want to know?
They want to know how they can survive. You know, what can we do to help them financially be able to continue into the future? You know, and so I go back to, it's a revenue issue. Whether it's going in and revamping the Go Texas program, which I was a part of for many years as a honey producer. I used to go put honey on the shelf myself, and I was a Go Texan member. But being a Go Texan member had no benefit to me to practically be able to go sell. So I think low-hanging fruit, that if I become the Texas Ag Commissioner,
Right.
we're going to go in and we're going to revamp the Go Texan program and make it a viable opportunity for small producers to be able to go sell direct into retail. And so that takes out a lot of layers of margin. And then we're going to take that very same idea and we're going to bring a digital version. Now we give it direct to consumer. And so if you live in West Texas, you can access consumers all over the state and the country for that matter to be able to go and sell your beef. But we've got to be able to even, you know, have more capacity for them to be able to go and have their animals processed at a much cheaper level, and try to figure out how we can make it more affordable for them to go sell themselves. But the more we can create more market share opportunity for them to go sell, then we're going to get back to that from 15 cents, hopefully back up to 40 cents.
Yeah. Nate, good luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.